Hello again, this is Mrs. Torigno, and this is the third page of the Algebra 1B Semester 2 exam review. So this video will just cover questions 12 through 15. Okay, number 12, before you run screaming because it's a word problem, is really just a formula problem. It gives you this formula right here. P equals 940t to the power of negative 1/2. And I've always told you that the most important thing to do when you have a formula problem is figure out what the letters stand for. So it tells me right here that P represents pulse rate and T represents centimeters tall, so it represents a height. Okay, so I'm using this formula and it says find the pulse rate for a person who is 184 centimeters tall. So that 184 just represents the letter T. And that means I'm just going to plug it in right there for T. So I'm going to do P equals 940 times 184 to the power of negative 1/2. And that whole thing can just go straight into your calculator. So give me just a second to plug that in. And you should be plugging it in too, again, to make sure that you can get the right answer. And as my final answer, I get 69.29. I guess I'll round that to probably the nearest whole number there. So I would say P equals 69. And that's beats per minute for your pulse rate. And that's it for question number 12. Okay, question number 13. I want you to sketch a graph for a power function. We talked about two different types of power functions, even and odd. Even power functions are shaped like a parabola. So even power functions are shaped sort of like this. And odd power functions are shaped like sort of that squiggle shape. Remember we said we didn't have a real technical name for that, but those are even and odd. So if you look at question number 13, it says n is an even whole number. So if it's even, it's going to be a graph of a parabola. That's all you have to do is sketch that. The other thing to make sure of, though, is you want to make sure that parabola crosses right at the origin. Okay, that's it for question 13. All right, question 14, we're back into some properties of exponents here. And this is a fraction exponent, but the same rules still apply. So here where I'm raising a power to a power, I'm really just going to do 6 times 2/3. And that can go straight into your calculator. So if that freaks you out, just type in 6 times 2 divided by 3. Well, 6 times 2 is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So this would come out to be x to the 4th. Now I'm going to do negative 3 times 2 over 3. Well, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, and negative 6 over 3 becomes negative 2. So this would be y to the negative 2. And again, I'm just going to leave that for now, and then I'll simplify in a second. And then on the bottom, I still have xy squared. I'm going to rewrite that as x to the first, y to the second, just to remember that there's really a 1 on that x. Okay, so now let's remember that when I'm dividing, I'm going to subtract. So 4 minus 1 is 3. This would become x to the 3rd. And here I'll do negative 2 minus 2. Again, be careful with that one because lots of people will think that that just cancels out, but it doesn't. Negative 2 minus 2 is actually negative 4. And that means when I write my final answer, I'm going to want that y to be on the bottom. So I would write x to the 3rd over y to the 4th. And again, I'm making that positive once I put it on the bottom. And that's it for that one. So really not as scary as it looks. Okay, question number 15 is a compound interest problem. I'm going to go ahead and write that formula here. This formula will be provided for you on the exam. So the formula, it looks like this. A, which stands for the total amount in the account, is equal to P, or principal, times 1 plus R for interest rate, over n, which represents the number of times per year you compound, to the power of n again, times t, which represents years. So let's translate all of that for this problem. I'm looking for A. My principal here is the $375 that I'm investing initially. And then I'm going to have 1 plus, now be careful with your R. It gives me 2.45%, but you have to move that decimal point before you put it into the problem. So that's really going to become 0.0245 over n. This is the tricky one because it's not given to you in number form. The n is usually written as a word, and you have to recognize these words. Here it says that I'm compounding semi-annually, so that means twice a year. So I'm going to put 2 in for n, and then it'll be to the power of 2. And here it's just asking you for t years, so I'm just going to leave that as a t. And that's what your final formula would look like. 375 times 1 plus 0.0245 over 2, and then the whole thing to the power of 2t. Now question B says, use that equation to find the amount if the money is left for 8 years. So that 8 is now going to become my t. So I would just do 375 times 1 plus 0.0245 over 2 to the power of 2 times 8. And you can type that all into your calculator in one shot. In fact, I recommend that you do it all in one because otherwise people tend to make mistakes with order of operations. Let's see if you can watch me type it in. So I would do, 375 parentheses 1 plus 0.0245, so no extra parentheses there, divided by 2, close parentheses, and then to the power of, you do have to put the exponent in parentheses because you're putting 2 numbers up there, and it would be 2 times 8. And remember, this is money, so we're going to round to 2 decimal places. That would be $455.65. And that's it for compound interest. Okay, and that's it for this video. I'll pick up the next one with the next page.